Croft, who has as good an expert league track record as anybody in the industry. Just, you know, in tout, he has just owned over the years, and knows his stuff, obviously. So, with no further ado, let's jump right into the pitchers here. Start off with Chris Archer. Forget the 19 losses, fact or fluke. Has he returned to his previous level of success? Was that those first 2 months going to dissuade you guys, or are you going to look at like other underlying stats? We'll start all the way down here. We'll go with Doug first.
I love Chris Archer. I don't love him as much as he was the year before, and I think that forget the 19 losses, they'll not quite return to his previous level of success. I mean, you just look at stuff like his xERA, it's 3.5. If you like 3.5 for Chris Archer, I agree.
I think the second half of 2016, or the last 4 months, looks a lot like the first half of 2015. I think I was the idiot on this panel last year who liked Archer more than Carlos Carrasco. I think I might have been on an island with that one. So I still buy in. It's frustrating when a guy like that kind of loses the feel for his best pitch, which seemed to be a big part of his struggle throughout the first half. But has good control, actually, which is something that was a problem for him earlier in his career. And I think with that walk rate being down, he can get away with some of the increase in his home run rate, too. So ultimately, I do buy into Archer. I think he's in the mix as like a top 12, top 15 pitcher. Probably a guy that's going to come off the board within the first 60 picks overall, you know, ending around 4 of an NFBC style draft, because I think that there's always somebody in the room who's going to believe in him, and if you draft him to me, I'm one of those people that does believe in him.
Yeah, I'm with Archer too. I think the real issue is that his heights weren't necessarily that high, and last year wasn't that bad when you really look at it. First off, we don't care about 19 losses in any league.
Hang on 1 second. Your volume on?
Yeah. Is this better? As I was saying, 19 losses doesn't mean anything really, because I mean we don't really care. Even wins, if it was the other way, exorbitant win side record, we don't really care about that. So don't worry about the 19 losses. He held the strikeout gains that we saw in 2015. He maintained, Derek was mentioned in his control. The walk rate stayed good. You know, the fastball, it was either the fastball or the slider, seemingly every game. One of them was off with the command. And when he wasn't commanding the slider, that's when he got in the most trouble. I still think home runs were a big issue. For some reason, that entire Tampa Bay staff had home run issues. I know that home runs were a problem league-wide, but it really seemed to affect Tampa Bay if you go look at that staff. He got them better. Archer was better at allowing home runs in the second half. I think he'll be even better this year, maybe more of a .9 homer per 9 rate. He can really succeed with that. I think he's kind of a sleeper Cy Young.
We're really going to talk about the losses. I think they're irrelevant, and I think most people here are smart enough to know that that's not the best way to evaluate Archer. To each of our points made here, in 2015, 3.23 ERA. His first half last year was 4.66, and his second half was 3.25. So it was practically the same in the second half to his 2015, which was the breakthrough year. And the major difference in that first half was the four-seam fastball velocity was a little bit lower, a little bit more hittable. But in the second half, in the second half, it got a little bit closer, an inch to within half a mile per hour of that 2015. And the only real difference in that pitch to 2015 was, as Paul, you had said, a little bit higher home run rate. He just gave up a little bit higher slugging percentage, isolated power on that particular pitch. But the slider was golden. It was pretty much golden for 2015, the first half and the second half. To me, that package is 2015. I don't think it's spot on to it, but this is a top 15 starting pitcher. Go right back.
Yeah, I think we've got Scherzer, Sale, and Bumgarner as the only three pitchers with more strikeouts over the last 2 seasons than Chris Archer. So he's in good company, tons of Ks.
And that hair.
Let's bottom line this. Say you're in the NFBC, I like using that as a proxy for mixed draft leagues. 15-team mix. Last year he's going into the third round. Where are you taking him this year if you're taking him?
I'd take him mid-4th, late 4th.
Yeah, I think similar area. I'm not sure you necessarily have to pay that either, you know, depending on the league that you're in. But yeah, I'm just not moving it down that much.
I never take good pitchers.
Yes, I'm leaning more towards Doug's strategy here. I'm just conservative on pitching, so I'd say mid-5th, but I don't have a problem with 4th.
All right, we'll move on. Danny Duffy. Man, if you drafted him last year, you absolutely loved it. You owned it, especially if you held on to him while he was a reliever and then he finally made the transition. This year, is there more growth coming? Is he going to be sub 325? What's he going to be? Let's start with Derek this time.
And all the factors would be there in terms of his skills. Swing strike rate went through the roof this year. It's a great sign. The biggest issue used to be control. Now it's home runs. He's got to shape the home run rate. In that park, especially, it's surprising that he's been getting crushed as much as he has. He left 26 homers for right-handed hitters last year. That park, that defense, that arm finally should be positioned to get you 200 innings. I think he does have the ability to make that leap to ace status. And most likely, you're not going to have to pay for what he's going to do. He's going to be a profitable 6th, 7th round type arm, and we're using the NFBC 15-team mix. I think we can see him probably within the first 90 to 100 picks, and that's pretty solid value right now.
I will disagree a little bit on where he's going to go. I think an off season of analyzing Danny Duffy is going to raise his stock. I think it's a Carlos Carrasco type week here that you can really buy into. There was fastball and slider velocity gains. The slider was even more important of the two. He had 41% strikeout rate with that pitch and just a 2% walk rate. But the real big difference was the development of his changeup. And that's what really set him apart this year. Amped it up to 17% usage, and it was basically a put-away pitch for him against righties and lefties. So I really like Danny Duffy. And again, I think that articles that you see from nerds like me are really going to try to push his value up, and I'll probably take him top 75.
Yeah, to Paul's point about the changeup, I thought that was critical in giving him a fighting chance against right-handed batters. If you remember Duffy in the past, he was lights out against lefties. He ranked among the league's leaders, and that changeup gave him decent numbers. He wasn't a lead against righty by any means among left-handed pitchers, but it did make him better. The key difference for him was that he shifted from relief back to starting a couple of times, and this time, in 2016, he actually maintained most of the velocity on his fastball after he moved into the rotation. It was critical to him breaking through. The only real concern I had was that perhaps it was fatigue over the course of the year. He lost a little bit of it late in the season. It wasn't enough to be devastating, but I kind of give him a pass. I think his workload was amping up over the past couple of seasons. I think next year he'll be a little bit more equipped to deal with it. If he maintains the near 94, 95 mile per hour fastball, I think he is going to be an ace. I was really torn on whether to say it's fact or fluke based on this question. I think it's a fact. I want to go all in, but Paul, as you said, it's dangerous. And this could be a big preseason buzz kind of pitcher.
No, I think the gains are fully supported. I agree with you on that there's a little bit of a sea change in his baseline, and what you saw this year is that baseline. Now comes the cautionary note. He's 43% fly balls, the balls in play. And I'll tell you what, the amplitude around that baseline is much higher when you have that many fly balls, depending on how many of them find the stands. So you could really go out there thinking you're buying an ace, and then he's just giving up a bunch of home runs. So you got to watch out for that. And I don't, whenever I see something like more growth, I'm like, well, what supports that idea? He just had this big, giant leap in growth. So, I think there's a new baseline, but I can't see even more growth than that. I don't know why that would be.
And I'll close. Quick question here, guys. Tristan alluded to it. Workload. He's never had an innings count like he did last year. How well do you think he holds up this year?
I think Paul's Carrasco, Tom, is a good one. With Carrasco, that hand injury this year was pretty fluky, but you're still concerned that even though he's stretched out enough where this should be the year for him to get 200 innings, you're probably expecting 180, 185 instead.
I don't think there's any reason to believe that he can't go 200. I'm not worried about the innings jump. It was like, 40 innings, 149, 137, 180 are his last 3 seasons. 28 years old, is kind of out of the injury nexus of concern for Duffy, so I'm not really worried about innings count at all.
I'm not worried about the innings either. I alluded to that. I think that it's really going to come down to competitiveness of the team and whether he himself is pitching as well as he did last season. I think that that's going to drive the decision. There's no reason he can't pitch 200 innings.
All right, let's move on. Hash back on the D-back. Zach Greinke crashes in the desert. Guys, what are we doing with Zach Greinke? Terrible year, end of the season, PL and shoulder. Paul, we'll start with you on this one.
In terms of the question about, does he go back to a sub-3 ERA, for some reason I think I put back on here. I mean fluke, because the environment is just not conducive to it. The last one that we saw was from Ian Kennedy back in 2011. It just doesn't happen a lot. I don't think Arizona necessarily gets its full due as a hitter's park. It's a really good hitter's environment. It's not great for pitchers, even good ones like Greinke. My concern is the fastball really fell apart. It got beat around 961 OPS, rise in homers. Velo dropped about a half tick. It's not even that good velocity-wise. Anyway, secondary stuff is still strong though. This is still a very good pitcher. I think in my NFBC draft that we did on Friday night, he went 8th or 9th round. That I'm willing to buy. But if he starts inching his way back up as people become more comfortable with Greinke again, I would start to back off if he was in the 5th, 6th round area.
I was a buyer last year and I was wrong, so I'll be a seller this year and I'll probably be wrong again. I think it's a fluke. I just think the odds are against him, and it's no knock on the guy. I like him. A lot of the things are still there. He still had very good command. He improved that quite a bit in LA, and I thought that was key to him having a fighting chance at a sub-3 ERA. But in that park, yeah, I learned my lesson. I just don't think that the odds are in his favor. As you see on here, I have the 10 instances of the ERA qualified Diamondbacks pitcher with a sub-3 ERA. The other 3 who aren't on this list were all 280 or higher. So right there, your chances aren't particularly good. The other thing, he has a 3.11 ERA and a 3.12 FIP since he's become a full-time starting pitcher in his career. So already right there, you're looking at a baseline with a 3.11 ERA. The other thing too is if you break down the numbers last year, he looks like the kind of pitcher you don't really want in there every single start. His 9 best starts of 2016, and I use game score for this just because it's the easiest way for me to break these down, were either road starts or those with the roof closed at Chase Field, and his 7 worst starts last year, 3 were with the roof open at Chase Field, 1 was at Coors, and 1 was at Boston. Very clearly a matchups kind of guy, and I'll tell you, when the roof is open at Chase Field, the numbers are significantly worse. He showed it. I know it's a small sample, but I'm just concerned that at the end it's going to be something like a 3.25 ERA. A useful pitcher, but just, no, not back to the ace level. Yeah.
The year before, he's the perfect guy that I always throw out first and hope somebody bids up. Because his ERA the year before was 1.66, and his FIP was nowhere close to that. So like, that's the guy you always want some idiot to get, right? That's not the guy you want. I'll leave it at that.
I think a lot of us were concerned about Greinke's ADP last year because people were paying for his final season with the Dodgers, not accounting for the move into Chase Field. But he did get hurt last year, and I wonder how much of what happened in 2016. Well, yeah, I didn't have any where it was too expensive. I liked the pitcher, but he crashed harder than I would have thought. I think health was a big part of that. Before he hit the DL, he had a 3.62 ERA. After, he had a 6.02. So I don't think he was ever really right when he came back. But if the new baseline is 3.40, 3.50 for ERA and a good whip, decent number of strikeouts, that's a good pitcher. Like these guys are saying, it's a 2, but not the kind of guy that you want to overpay for. The tricky thing with Greinke is it's a new front office, and even though it's a big contract, there's no pitching out there. What are the odds that the Diamondbacks find a way to just with Greinke get out of that money? I think that could actually be pretty good. He's landed in a much better spot, and if that happens, I'd be more inclined to invest again.
What if it goes back to the Dodgers?
Yeah.
Probably not previous prices, but like a round off it.
Are you guys looking at the shoulder at all coming into this year? Is there a disaster potential there still?
Yeah, I still think there's plenty of concern. The fact that he wasn't just bad, but also got hurt is something that you have to keep in mind with Greinke. But again, 8th round is where he went in my draft. I don't know where he went last night. In that area, it's a lot less risky, even with the shoulder.
I'm only concerned about it because it means more homework for us during the offseason when he reports to camp. Is that going to be a question that we start off with? I don't like pitchers who enter spring training with some minor questions. I mean, they said all the right things about it, that, oh, it was no big deal if we were in the playoffs. If we were in the playoffs, I could have pitched through it. Well, come on, everybody pitches less than 100% of the play. But yeah, I'll have my eye on it as the camp's open.
Improvement or happenstance. Fun.
Did you write that joke?
Many owners were hapless when they didn't have him in his breakout last year. There we go. I got it. Legitimate 3.5 or below, factor fluke, Tristan Cotton.
This is a weird dude. He gained velocity. How many guys do that? I mean, granted, it's because he didn't throw all that hard in the past. I mean, soft tossing guy from 2008 to 2010 averaged about 90 miles per hour with his fastball. And then in the past 3 years, he was roughly 93, gained 3 miles per hour. Not only that, he kind of learned how to lean on that pitch in particular. If you break down his four-seamer usage, this is the key to him. He went to the four-seam fastball, and it was a successful point for him. If he threw 60% of them or more in a start in the past 3 seasons, he had a 2.77 ERA. If he threw 40 to 60%, he had a 3.88. And if he threw 40% or less, those are the bad half starts, there were 4.05. So I think it really is relying upon what kind of pitcher he is. Does he come in and he sticks with the things that went well for him late in 2015 with the Pirates and early last year? Then fine, I'm on board with this. I'd say that. But I say fluke because the odds are against him in that park. And last year he showed us he wasn't willing to rely on it that much. I think he's got to just trust his stuff, and I just don't think he does it for 33 starts.
His FIP is a full run higher than his ERA this past year. Fluke, 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 fluke. Okay, I'm not being subtle. Fluke. Remember what I said about idiots last year with Greinke? Half.
Other than Kimball, raise your hand if you believe in J-Hap at all. Coach Jake's hand back there. It's a short list. I mean, a lot of what these guys are saying is exactly what I had thought about. The one strange thing I noticed with his skills were better at home. I don't know if it's just noise or what that is, but of all the places for him to pitch really well, for him to do it at Rogers Center really surprised me. When I looked at his splits from last year, I think he still looked like the guy he was in 2015. Maybe he made a few adjustments in Pittsburgh and carried those over. I don't want to pay for those. I don't want to be the guy that owns J-Hap when it falls apart, because I think he's more of a high threes, maybe even a low fours ERA guy when it starts to go south for him.
Here's the thing. This guy's tricking us, and not in the way you think. He puts his name as J period, A period, and he's got us calling him J. I don't know how you did that. Your name's J.A., okay, dude? There's just no two ways around it. You're J.A. Hap, and that's what I'm going with. As far as the 350 ERA, it's back-ish. Like I said, I got him like a 340 to 390, which feels like a big difference, but it's 10 earned runs over 180 innings. I do like that he kept his pitch mix from Pittsburgh, which was to lean on fastball and slider and fewer of the changeups and curves. He's solid, but in the AL East and in Toronto specifically, there's just a lot of volatility. If you had a 4.20 ERA, nobody in here would be surprised.
All right, move on. Talked a little about when we last saw Kyle Hendricks, he was getting inexplicably lifted by Joe Madden. After just an amazing run, including great playoff runs. Are we believing in him? And how much? To what degree are we believing in Kyle Hendricks? Doug?
I'm all in on him. I think he's awesome. I like him better than everybody on this list, including Chris Archer. He's not Greg Maddux, okay? Like, that kind of stupid narrative is stupid. But he's really good. Like, he's really good. His FIP was under 3.5. I think anybody like that is good. The 213, forget that. He's not going to repeat that. He'll be in the low threes. Low threes puts him in the top 15 pitchers in baseball for me. I'm on it.
Yeah, it looks really realistic that he can continue what he's been doing. The ground ball percentage has always been there. The defense behind it continues to get better. The real question with a guy like Hendricks for me is how many innings does he log? Because he's not going to be great in Ks, but if he gets 210, 215, 220 in terms of innings, then the number of Ks you get actually comes out where you want it. Because even though the rate's lower, the volume is good. I like pretty much everything about him. Leads the league in first strike percentage. He's tied with Johnny Cueto, so he's always getting ahead of hitters, and that bodes very well for him. Just seems like he's got a plan out there. One of the smarter pitchers in the game right now.
Did you know he went to Dartmouth? They don't really talk about it, but he did. It's really interesting that Doug's out here calling everybody idiots, and then he going to go full bore on Kyle Hendricks. I mean, this is a fluke. Are we going to learn nothing from Dallas Keuchel? I understand that one's righty, one's lefty, but this is a soft tosser who relies on weak contact to excel. And I understand that 23% strikeout rate, it's not bad, but the weak contact, that's what drives his success. And that there's just volatility there. That Cubs defense was absolutely amazing, far and away the best defense. All 5 Cubs starters were top 13 or better in BABIP. He was 4th in BABIP. Hendricks himself was 4th in BABIP and strand rate. He might not fall as much as Keuchel, but this is a very similar situation. I don't see how you can necessarily buy into him at that height. His price is going to be way too high. This is a fluke. I say be careful.
Well, Joe Madden took him out a little shy of qualifying for a win in the World Series, so clearly he stinks. He's terrible, he's a fluke, awful, don't buy him. No, I'm all in on Kyle Hendricks. We don't talk enough about the pitcher's ability to generate soft contact, and he is exceptional at it. The Major League's leader in well-hit average allowed last year was under 100. It was 085 against left-handed batters alone, already against lefties. That's 19 points better than Noah Syndergaard had last season. What was behind it? He went much more heavily on the four-seam fastball, and he threw more changeups against them. He was giving many different looks to left-handed batters. He was nasty against them.
88 mile per hour fastball.
Yeah.
All Dallas Keuchel.
But it gives different movement compared to the rest of his other pitches, and to me, I think that neutralizes his splits. I'm not that worried about him. I actually think guys who show the ability to generate weak contact, can get infield pop-ups and the like, are going to be repeatable skilled pitchers, and I think Hendricks can do that. I will not pay at this ERA. I think there's a likelihood that people will overpay for him. He's a number 2 fantasy starter. He is not an ace for fantasy purposes. But I'm on board if his price remains in that tier.
I didn't realize you guys drank this early.
You know what? This is our first stat fight, so I think we're going to go ahead and open this one to the audience real quick. How many of you guys think that Kyle Hendricks is going to have a 3-10? We'll say 3. Sub-3 ERA this year. Raise your hand if you think he has a sub-3 ERA.
Okay, that's wrong.
All right, sub-325.
Yeah, I'm with that.
That's 5 earned runs? Okay.
It's
So,
important 5 runs.
how many people think he's going to be a total fluke and fall apart like Keuchel?
Just Paul.
I don't think he'll fall apart.
Okay, not fall apart. Okay. What's your okay? So, but give me the danger. What's the danger? Tell me what the danger is. What is
Like
the
a
downside?
mid-3s ERA, and not as many strikeouts, and the defense maybe not being all worldly again. Like it's still going to be a good defense. They're good, but I mean, you go look at those numbers. It was historical, and all of them benefited from it. All their pitchers. Allowing the ball in play and relying on that as your viability, that's your main key to success. It just breeds volatility, and I just don't know that you can bet on this guy to be a low 3, sub-3 ERA guy.
Jason, comment real quick.
I hear what you're saying about Kyle Hendricks, and it sounds like what we said about Marco Estrada at the same time last year.
And Dallas
Same
Keuchel.
repertoire, everything, and he made us all look bad.
No, I'm going to fight that one.
I think the swinging strike rate ticked up to like 10% too. If he's able to sustain that, that goes a really long way. I think he's more like Cueto than like Dallas Keuchel.
And that's nonsense. Marco Estrada's home runs left and right. Kyle Hendricks, nothing like that.
All right. We'll take a couple more comments. People are really engaged on this one. Brad?
I'm just curious, but he's so awesome as our Steve Hanel believes. Why do you think his manager is now in such a critical situation?
If you were here last year, you'd have heard the whole Joe Madden shtick. You'd have heard it.
All right, Perry.
Is it true he was told after 4 2/3 miles in the parade yesterday?
Hey-oh, and that's going to move on, close this one out. All right, King Felix is kind of a tragic figure. He never once really complained about the status of the Mariners when he was at his level best. And now he's kind of falling off. He never got to have that success. He never had a playoff game. The Mariners might not be terrible, but he's not going to be the ace. Is that the case? Fact or fluke? Are the glory days over? Derek?
Unfortunately, I feel like they are. The fastball's been getting killed for 2 years running. I mean, King Felix was also going to get you close to the league lead in innings, which again, if you didn't have the strikeout burning stuff, you could kind of offset that by working 220, 225 frames. He's not going to do that anymore. The pre-calf injury skills might be a new indicator of what he's going to do. It would make him probably more like a 3 for us from a fantasy standpoint. I mean, that part certainly helps, and he's figured out along the way how to make adjustments as the fastball velocity dipped earlier in his career. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility of some adjustments now at this stage of his career, but he's not coming back to top 20 starting pitcher status.
And I think with the glory days being over, that's a fact. 3 years of sinking velocity, strikeout rate, and innings. 3 years of rising walk rate, home runs, ERA, whip. You know, the fastball changeup split is 3 miles per hour now, but the changeup's still really good. So it didn't necessarily affect that, but it does affect the fastball. It was the 15th worst OPS against out of the 99 starters who had at least 300 plate appearances off of their fastball. It was the 7th highest walk rate. I think he might benefit from maybe changing to a cutter, because I mean, he's working in that Kyle Hendricks zone of 88, 90 with his velocity. I don't rule out changes. I mean, this is a guy who's, you know, manipulated his pitches and worked to get better as that velocity continues to sink. I mean, it's been dropping year over year forever. So I won't completely write him off, but, you know, like when we were all down on Verlander, except for me because I'm a genius, you know, when all of y'all were down on him, there were reasons. There were signs that you could point to for a rebound. I don't see those signs with Felix, so it is very concerning. I'm not even as worried about the workload or the fact that he had his first DL stint. I just don't know that the raw stuff outside of the changeup is that great anymore for the glory days.
To the point on his velocity there, I mean, you can see it on the notes. His fastball looks like his changeup did 6 years ago. Pretty incredible. I mean, last year, his average fastball velocity by month was lower in each of those months than it was in any previous month of his entire career. It's absurd. This guy's been losing velocity. The problem is that people talk all about that, and he's not really a pitcher who relied so much on velocity. It was all about his changeup. But the drop brought it too close. You can't differentiate between these pitches. It was 3.3 miles per hour different between that and his fastball, his changeup and fastball. And I think it made it easier for hitters to catch up. He was fluky in the first half of the year where he was reading his peripherals. He had a 2.86 ERA before he went on the DL, and then a 4.48 ERA, and that was the real Felix after he came back from the DL. I want to believe. I want to be on board with, I'm sure you've all heard the Justin Verlander possibility. Maybe, you know, he'll learn to live without velocity. Not the same kind of pitcher. They're just not. I just don't see any real reason he's going to return to ace form at any point in his career. I want to. Can't do it.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I agree with everybody else. That's true, actually. I have him outside of my top 100 starting pitchers. So whatever that means. Outside of the top 100 pitchers, yes.
What round in FBC?
I don't get him in any round.
You have him outside of your top 100 starters, not top 100 overall?
Starters.
Wow, you do drink a lot in the morning.
We'll be here next year.
All right, we'll move on. Sounds pretty negative feelings. Dallas Keuchel.
Would anyone take Felix in the first 10 rounds of NFBC? Anyone? No.
Somebody did here.
Round 10.
No shaming, please.
Show yourself.
No shaming here. We saw how that went. Let's not do that. All right. Dallas Keuchel, buzzkill, killed everybody's dreams. Paul's already, cited him as the nightmare scenario. And guess what? How often do you see it? Cites a fluke, and he gets to be first to talk about it. Paul, you're up.
Full rebound back in the Cy Young mix. That's obviously a fluke. He had a career year, and I know he was good the year before in 2015. So he can be good again, but you got to sit with like a mid-threes expectation at the high end. And don't forget, he missed September with shoulder inflammation, so we're going to be dealing with that. Tristan already mentioned how worried he is, especially when somebody ends the season with an injury. You don't know what to deal with there. But even you put that aside, and the league adjusted to him, and he needed a lot of time to adjust back. His first 10 starts, he had a 5.92 ERA, 1.59 WHIP, and just a 2.0 strikeout to walk ratio. In his last 16, he was at 3.75 ERA, 1.11 WHIP, and back up at a 4.1 strikeout to walk ratio for 106 innings. He could do that for a full season, and that's all right, especially with the home run surge that we saw across the league. Pitching became you know, you could take a 3.75 ERA and it was a little bit better. I mean, 2 years ago, 3.75 ERA is sitting on the waiver wire in a lot of mixed leagues, and now it's viable again. So he can be solid, but back into Cy Young territory, I just don't see it. Not a chance.
Sure, he could get some Cy Young votes. Maybe he'll get a 10th place vote from one of the Houston voters. I don't think Cy Young. I don't think that the Cy Young is really on the table here. I think that the 2015 season was the true fluke here. And really what was behind it was a lot of favorable calls. He got just every call, especially in the second half. And what happened was, hitters were forced to chase bad pitches. I mean, 1 out of every 2 pitches he threw outside the strike zone, hitters swung at in the second half of that year. They had no hope. And last year it regressed to the mean, predictably. I think the true Dallas Keuchel is the one from 2 years ago. I think it's his 2015 self. That's really the closer baseline. He showed it. The 2014 season, yeah. I always get my years wrong. Nightmare filling out checks. They don't do that anymore. Who writes checks? I wrote 1 this year. I still, anyway. Second half last year, 3.69 ERA, 1.14 WHIP, and then he ended with injuries. I'm a little concerned about the injury situation, but I think that that's an awful lot closer to his true self. I'll take that, or I'll take 2014.
Doug, what's a check?
Yeah, glad you asked. Glad I'm keeping the age of the panel up. I think Dallas Keuchel is around a 3.5 ERA pitcher. I don't think he was nearly as good last year, but I think he's a 3.5. I like him. I think last year was very unlucky. He had a 57% ground ball rate, which I really like a lot. He still had, 3 strikeouts to walks. He shouldn't have had all the home runs he gave up. I mean, the 4.5 ERA is not correct. The whole idea, though, the question is absurd, right? The whole reason to decide, I think that's absurd. But I like him much better than I think others do.
I aspire to that. That's what I'm looking for. It's going to take some time, but I'm going to get there.
Minus the Bud Light.
I don't like the Bud Light at all. That is a terrible judgment. As a result, there's no way I can invest in Dallas Keuchel. He's coming off a shoulder injury, probably from drinking too many crappy beers. I don't want to invest in the middle rounds in that skill set coming off a shoulder injury. That's the biggest concern is the health. I think 7.5 Ks per 9, the skills he showed in 2014 can come back. And I think there is something there, but the health has me scared away.
Doug, why do you say he didn't deserve to give up as many home runs as he did? He had to come in the zone a lot more with weaker stuff. He doesn't have high fastball velocity. His homer to fly ball rate was higher, but it wasn't exorbitant for what he's done in his career. I just don't see why he didn't deserve to give those up.
I'll answer that. I will answer that question. He had a 24% fly ball rate, 24% total, and he had more than a home run per 9. Those things don't go together. It's like Sesame Street.
He's a 15% home run.
Sesame Street. Would be an Oscar.
Irony is dead. All right. Shelby Miller. Is there any chance he can scrape out a sub-4 ERA this year? He dragged down your team. Should go to a knuckleball. Let's start off with Tristan on this one.
Can I just sing Sesame Street songs instead of address Shelby Miller? A lot of fun. Oh man, what a terrible year. I felt bad for the guy because he couldn't buy a win 2 years ago, and that was really relevant. People talk a lot about how he improved in AAA, 3.91 ERA, 1.28 WHIP. So, what's so special about that? Granted, it's a hitter's environment. He got more Ks, but then he came back to the majors, and his K rate, which was 26% in the minors, went back to 14. This is a pitch-to-contact guy, and everything I said about Greinke applies to Shelby Miller. I can't see how he's under a 4. I think he's got some use in real-life circumstances. Maybe as a 4.01 ERA, and he's useful as a 4th starter. But no, I would not be investing in fantasy.
Sweet life, Diamondbacks. Sweet, sweet life. That trade is so disastrous, and there wasn't much that he could do to justify that trade, and falling apart completely certainly didn't help. There was some idiot who was touting that guy last year. just a giant dork with glasses. Don't listen to that guy ever. But I didn't know his mechanics were going to completely fall apart based on some changes that Arizona encouraged him to do. And the fact of it is, you look at that 2016 line, there's absolutely nothing that you can pull away from it and be confident about. So it's not quite a blind faith, but you got to kind of look and say, okay, you had a 3.22 ERA and a 1.24 WHIP with volatile K rates prior to 2016. Do you want to believe in a guy who's still young and has had previous success? He can work 93, 95. My only shining light with him is that we've seen great rebuilds with guys who had far less talent. You know, Scott Kazmir was literally dead. I think he was actually in a coffin when his career came back. So that doesn't get enough coverage. He was actually dead and he came back. So, you know, I mean, we've seen guys rebuild from less. There's still some stuff here. I'll take like that 23rd round flyer on him because it's going to cost nothing. People were already down on him last year, but it's one of those, you have to pick him in a scenario where he cannot hurt you if he sucks again.
Your week one cut.
Exactly.
Everybody hates Shelby Miller, so the price is pretty much zero. We just did updated composite rankings at RotoWire, myself, and then 4 people who are much smarter than me. He didn't make the top 350 overall, which is about right. And the one thing he did do when he came back, he ironed out some of the control problems he was having earlier in the season. Health was obviously a problem for him too. As a $1 flyer at the end of the auction, sure, maybe. I guess there's always the possibility he gets flipped to someone else too. I don't know what the Diamondbacks' new plan is going to look like, but if he gets out of Arizona, there might be a little more interest.
I'm laughing on the inside. Wait.
You're going to end up with an NL labor.
I'm never. No, I'm not.
That's true.
Absolutely.
That's
false.
definitely true.
False.
Fields Hernandez or Shelby Miller?
Fields Hernandez. Fields Hernandez is outside my top 100. Shelby Miller isn't even on like any sheet I have. In fact, Shelby Miller's like, I would love to put him on somebody else's team.
You draft him for
I hate
Shelby.
Shelby Miller. Sorry, Campbell.
All right, a lot of happy thoughts. Let's move on. Rick Porcello. Huge win season. Nope. Let's start with Doug.
I'm trying to hand you the microphone, Bojack. What, you guys want to follow that?
He's usually a horse's ass, so being a horse's head is an improvement. Is he a legitimate #1 starter? Of course not. I mean, just look at all the comments we've been saying about Hendricks and Keuchel, or at least the smart guy has been saying. I mean, it was a pretty lit win-loss record, but I mean, he really wasn't that different when you take a look at Porcello's skills. He's a quality pitcher. He's one of these guys who's a better major league pitcher than he is fantasy, though. I mean, without a huge win-loss record, he's just not that great of a fantasy asset. Don't buy the hype. He'll be taxed as a Red Sox.
Wins. How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. 20, 21, 22. Sorry, I don't know what happened. The wins really mask anything that Rick Porcello did well last year. I think he's going to get a bum rap just because of the wins. But you know what? He actually improved as a pitcher last year. He actually got a couple of Ks for a while. I gotta be nice once in a while. Remember I said I'm the optimist. And then it was mean to Shelby Miller. I was mean to Shelby Miller. I gotta balance it out here. He got a few more Ks. He leaned a little more on the four-seam fastball. It was a little more effective. He threw it about 30% of the time, both to lefties and righties. He did it with 2 strikes that often. And that's the reason he got more strikeouts. And that's about where the story of positives end. I think he's a very useful real-life pitcher. In fantasy, maybe he's a number 3. I don't think that's a bad thing to be. But if you're paying for the player rater, now I criticize him. If you're paying for his player rater number on ESPN, you're crazy. Don't listen to that thing. Who the heck came up with that?
Can we turn this guy into glue already? I don't know, you don't have to like believe necessarily 100% in XFIP, but Porcello's was 372 in 2015. It was actually 389 last year, so it was worse. I mean, be careful, be careful. Need some oats?
He's a fluke as a 1. The interesting thing about Porcello is the control. Only Bartolo Colon and Clayton Kershaw had a lower walk percentage since the start of 2015. I think that is a very consistent skill that Porcello has. Doesn't beat himself up with free passes. The run support's going to be there, so the win probability is good. We're going to be banking on 20 plus again. Quite obviously stupid. Bullpen should be good. Actually, no, it won't, because Dave Dombrowski doesn't build very good bullpens more often than not. Sorry, Paul. If you're in it really deeply and you take him as a 1, you're probably going to lose. You'd have to pair him with one of the elite closers that gets you a ton of Ks, Betances or even like an Andrew Miller type to offset the lack of strikeouts you're probably going to get from Porcello. I think he's a good pitcher, not a great one.
All right. That was good. Yes. You can come out now. Michael Wacha, disaster.
I was wrong on Porcello last year, in case you didn't know that.
Michael Wacha was a disaster last year, over 4 last year. Is he going to be over 4 again this year, Derek?
The swinging strike rate is down for the 3rd straight season. Health is a constant problem. The BABIP spike, but the hard hit rate didn't change. His ability to keep runners on base faded quite a bit, so I don't know if that was just noise, but the health alone, to me, is a reason to be very wary of Michael Wacha. Depending on what the Cardinals do this offseason, are we that far away from Wacha to the bullpen? Is that an actual possibility? I just don't really like the trends, especially with that swinging strike rate. That's the skill that just continues to fade. It's 3 years in a row that it's dropped, and I don't really see any reason to be optimistic about that coming back.
I think it's all about he had a hurt shoulder, honestly. And the whole thing is if his shoulder's okay, what does that mean? I mean, is he going to be healthy or isn't he going to be healthy? I don't know. I think that he still commands, but if his stuff doesn't come back, then he's going to have a new baseline. But for me, it's just a big question mark. I really don't know, health-wise, if that's going to happen or not.
Pitchers are better when healthy. Doug Dennis, bring in the great knowledge, y'all. Obviously, health is the major concern with Wacha. We all understand that. 375th in 131 innings before the shoulder inflammation, though. He had a 1755 in 7 relief innings that really kind of tanked his bottom line. You're still looking at a 4-pitch mix with an excellent changeup that he can use against lefties and righties. Weird 360 BABIP to right-handers, including a 526 off of his curveball. Strikeout and walk rates are flat the last 3 years. I think if you look at his 2014-15 when he had a 3.31 ERA and a 3.61 FIP, that's more instructive than the 5.09 ERA, 3.91 FIP he had this year. I think he's a good buy low target. Again, you can get him in a round where even if he's not healthy and he isn't good again, it's really not going to cost you that much. I still think there's upside here, though.
Anyone seen Michael Wacha's changeup? Anyone seen his velocity? I don't know. I can't.
Wait, what's wrong with the changeup?
Where'd it go? His changeup was elite, but last year, where'd it go?
It was still there. It was elite.
The numbers didn't bear it out that it was quite where it was 2 years ago. I want to see that come back. Now, yeah, you're right about the injuries. The injuries could have contributed to that, but I look at last year, and especially with the velocity, when he throws under 94 miles per hour, which is what he averaged last year, he had a 50-point higher wellhead average, and his miss rate went down by 5%. Pretty devastating for him. I'll give him the free pass here for the injuries, granted, but my big concern is I think he's a bat. I think he will have an ERA beneath this, and I think it's going to come as a reliever. I don't think it's going to be as a starter. I think that they are one step away from saying maybe he can't handle a starter's workload and be a useful reliever. Maybe we should think about Trevor Rosenthal being stretched out. I would not be shocked if they do that, and that's the way he gets the ERA below that. Yep.
So you think Trevor Rosenthal is going to take his spot in the rotation?
It's a non-zero possibility. I'm not going to say that's the probable outcome, but I could see Michael Wacha
Okay.
a sub-4 ERA.
I thought you guys were drinking. It's definitely hard drugs. Okay. That's no problem. I don't judge you. But that early in the morning, for those kind of hard drugs, that's a little much. Trevor Rosenthal, 0 chance he's a starter.
Quick either or. Michigan,
Besides me? Howdy.
quick either or. King Felix or Michael Wacha?
Felix.
Wacha. Wacha.
Nay. Felix.
Audience. King Felix? Wacha.
The smart ones.
Best friends.
So, okay, there you go. It's about 2/3 Felix, 1/3 Wacha. Let's move on. Oh, and that's done. That's it. Okay, we have some time for some Q&A?
I think we'll shut down the Facebook.